Alright, you lot, welcome back to Grumpy Corner Internet, where we talk gaming, we rant, we praise, and we absolutely don't sugarcoat out. Now, before we dive into today's bit of salty truth, don't forget to like, subscribe, and all that bollocks. It helps the channel grow and keeps me from smashing my controller when YouTube adds me videos from you. Alright, let's crack on. Right, so last week we touched on toxicity in gaming, but here's the thing, there's another side to that coin. You lot crying about every tiny thing that crosses your screen. Like, when did hello become a bloody hate crime in gaming world? I get it, not every joke lands, and yeah, some people are straight up pricks online. But come on, if you're getting offended by every offhand comment in chat or by NPC that says something mildly cheeky, it's time to grow up. I swear, second anyone says something outside your little bubble, you lot start crying like your save file got corrupted. Look, game developers need freedom to push boundaries. Art ain't about keeping everything comfy and sanitized. Games are supposed to make you feel, think, and maybe even squirm a bit. But now we've got devs scared to do all, cause some of you scream offensive second something rubs you wrong way. What's next? Banning teabagging cause your precious feelings got hurt? Let's get real here. If we start censoring everything, we're just killing creativity and innovation. You don't want every game to feel like it's been polished into a soulless corporate safe shell, do you? No risk, no reward, as they say. Now let's get into art of this. Freedom of expression in game development. This is where things get real. If you don't let devs express themselves fully, you end up with cookie-cutter games that are about as exciting as watching paint dry. And trust me, no one's logging into a game to feel like they're stuck in a Tesco queue. Game devs, much like artists, need space to explore, create, and yeah, occasionally screw up. That's where magic happens. Sometimes they'll make something that makes you laugh. Sometimes it'll make you cringe. But that's the point. If every game had to pass some non-offensive checklist, we'd be stuck in a loop of boring beige content with about as much edge as a spoon. Let's not forget gaming didn't get huge by playing it safe. It got big because developers weren't afraid to challenge players. Whether that's through storytelling, mechanics, or throwing in some controversial themes. You know why we remember games like GTA, Bioshock, or Last of Us? Because they weren't scared to piss a few people off while telling an incredible story. So here's a little nugget of wisdom. Let devs do the thing. You're not always going to like it, and that's fine. But if we keep demanding that every game be scrubbed clean or out remotely challenging, we'll end up in a world where games are as fun as reading terms and conditions. Now let's talk about censorship and how it strangles creativity like a noob in a chokehold. We've all seen it, haven't we? A game comes out with a bold idea, and before it's even had a chance to breathe, some loud group's crying about how it's problematic. So what happens? Devs cave, content gets watered down, and we're left with something so bland even a soggy Weetabix has more flavour. Censorship doesn't just remove so-called offensive bits, it kills edge, risk, and challenge that makes a game memorable. And I'm not talking about removing genuinely harmful stuff, I'm talking about cutting content just cause someone might get the feelings hurt. If we start censoring every potentially controversial element, we'll end up with games that are so safe they're practically bedtime stories for toddlers. Thing is, some of the greatest moments in gaming history have come from creators who weren't afraid to push boundaries. Remember Manhunt? That game was so controversial it got banned in some places. But people still talk about it to this day because it dared to be different. It's not about making something everyone will like, it's about making something worth talking about. So yeah, censorship, it don't protect creativity, it suffocates it. Let devs take risks. Let them create stuff that challenges us, that sparks debate. Because alternative is a future where every game feels like it's been designed by a committee with no guts and no glory. Here's where things get bleak, folks. What happens if we sanitize everything in gaming? Now I'll tell you what, we're left with a lifeless wasteland of games so dull your nan wouldn't even play them. Everything becomes so family friendly and offensive free that you might as well be watching CBeebies instead of loading up an FPS. You got developers walking on eggshells, terrified that smallest thing will send a Twitter mob after them. So what do? They stop taking risks. They stop experimenting with new ideas or edgy humour. Everything becomes safe, but safe is just another word for boring, mate. Think about it. Every game is sanitized to avoid upsetting someone. We lose what makes gaming fun in first place. Games are supposed to challenge you, make you think, and sometimes make you feel uncomfortable. Hell, half the fun of gaming is pushing those boundaries, both in gameplay and storytelling. If you strip all that away, you're left with games that play like they've been dipped in bubble wrap. And don't even get me started on how this impacts online play. If you can't even talk trash or celebrate a cheeky win without someone crying foul, then what's point? That little edge, that competitive spirit, it's all part of experience. But if we keep this up, we'll be left with a sterile, soulless interaction that feels like you're in an HR meeting instead of a game lobby. So before you demand that next game be scrubbed or out that might make you uncomfortable, think about cost. Sanitizing everything just means you're trading creativity for mediocrity. Here's a wild idea. Instead of crying every time something rubs you the wrong way, how about you try being a bit more open-minded? I know, shocking. Look, not every joke, character or plotline is going to cater to your specific worldview, and that's fine. That's point of gaming. It's about exploring different perspectives, seeing things you wouldn't normally see, and maybe, just maybe, learning something along the way. Gamers are supposed to be tough, right? We face impossible bosses, grind for hours, and fake through some of the most punishing levels imaginable. But second an NPC says something that makes you mildly uncomfortable, you throw a controller and write a 10-paragraph Twitter rant. Get a grip. Here's a thought. Instead of getting offended at everything, try understanding that games are a reflection of different ideas and cultures. You don't have to agree with everything a game presents, but at least try to appreciate effort that goes into it. Tolerance don't mean you have to love everything. It just means you're willing to let others enjoy things without throwing a tantrum. And guess what? When you open your mind, gaming gets a whole lot more interesting. You stop seeing every little thing as an attack and start appreciating creativity, storytelling, and sheer fun of it all. So next time something in a game don't sit well with you, instead of crying foul, maybe take a step back and think, what's this trying to show me? Grow a thicker skin, folks. Gaming will be a lot more enjoyable for everyone. Now don't get me wrong, criticism is important. I'm not saying we should all just sit there clapping like seals at everything game developers throw at us. But it's kicker. There's a difference between offering a well thought out critique and just being a whiny git. You got some gamers who act like devs owe them a perfectly tailored experience. Newsflash, sunshine, they don't. Sometimes a game ain't gonna align with your taste, and that's okay. Not everything needs to be catered to you. But instead of going on a tirade about how game offends your sensibilities, how about you take a moment and actually critique it properly? If something don't sit right, voice your opinion. But for love of gaming, don't turn every minor annoyance into a federal case. Not every design decision or bit of dialogue is a personal attack on you. The world ain't interested in your fragile feelings. Offer some constructive feedback instead of just complaining like games personally insulted your entire lineage. And while you're at it, remember to enjoy yourself. Yes, some games have flaws. Hell, some games are an absolute mess. Black Ops 6. But there's still fun to be had. Critique when it's needed, but don't forget reason you're playing in first place. To enjoy it, damn thing. Gaming's supposed to be fun, not some constant exercise in finding things to get offended by. If something annoys you in a game, by all means speak up. But don't forget to take a step back, laugh at absurdity, and remember why you're there in first place. Because deep down, you love gaming. Even when it drives you mad. Alright, I hope you managed to survive my rant without shedding too many tears. Just remember, next time you feel like crying over some harmless in-game banter or cheeky dev decision, take a deep breath and maybe, just maybe, toughen up a bit. Now before you disappear into digital abyss, smash that like button, hit subscribe and drop your questions or thoughts in comments below. Whether you're offended, enlightened or just here for a laugh, I want to hear it. Who knows? I might just feature your comments in a video. And don't forget to follow me on X, at Scotty McGaming, where I hang out with crowd. Yeah, I'm talking about you lot. I'll see you next time, you magnificent.